Good morning, Powerful Question Coaching listeners. This is Diane, and today I am starting my series on emotional hygiene. I am going to talk to you today about staying in your center. So, a lot of times when we feel threatened or upset about something, we either tend to shrink and become smaller and emotionally get smaller, or we puff up and we make ourselves bigger. So I'm going to give you an example so that this makes sense. But whenever sometimes for some reason I don't even know if it's feel threatened, but I will shrink back and I will forget why I'm doing what I'm doing or what I'm saying. So an example would be when I started my business, Powerful Questions Coaching, and somebody was talking to me about it and they were like, well, why coaching and why Skype it? Like, I don't understand. And I shrunk back and I couldn't keep my confidence about why I'm doing what I'm doing and being confident about it. I shrunk back and I was like, just kind of got intimidated. So what I want to talk to you guys about is not shrinking back and becoming smaller and forgetting who we are and why we're passionate about, what we're passionate about. But also not puffing up and making ourselves bigger than we are. So that was an example of shrinking. Now here's an example of puffing up. So I do push-ups as one of my energizers, and I used to do about 100 a day. And one time I was like at 120, and I said something to somebody, and I said I had done 150. Well, I hadn't, and for some reason I felt this need to puff myself up and make myself bigger than I was. And I was like, I looked back at that and I was like, why? What happened for me to feel like I needed to make myself more than I was? I was at 120, and that was great, and I didn't need to be anything more or bigger than that. So the idea is to not shrink back or puff up. And Brene Brown talks about this. I actually kind of got it from Brene, but then I started seeing it in my own life. So she calls it standing in her sacred ground, I think. But what I'm calling is staying in my center. So for me, my center, my stomach is where my center is. And so it's reminding myself to breathe and stay in my center. So to not shrink up and become smaller than I am, not puff up and become bigger than I am, but staying centered, staying in my center and breathing and being confident in who I am. So if you guys can start like noticing when you shrink and become small and try to come back to your center, or when you feel a need around certain people or certain situations to puff up and make yourself bigger than you are, to come back to your center. And so this is just a suggestion to start noticing, do I shrink around certain people? What I noticed is there was one particular person that I tended to puff up and want to feel bigger around. And I was like, what's happening for me that I want to be somebody different when I'm around this person? So just start noticing, do you shrink up? Do you shrink back, puff up? Or when you do, how do you come back to your center and notice yourself being centered and calm? So those are my suggestions. This again is a series on emotional hygiene, and this is just a technique to learn how to recognize when you're out of your center and bring yourself back. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.